Welcome back to Cinema Corner. I'm Blake, and I'm here with my co-host, Josh.
And today we are reviewing Mission Impossible, a movie that we were hyped for a long time. Very long time.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1 to be exact. Obviously, you see this video is coming out quick. We got the honor of getting to see this movie early. Channel's been doing good, so we got, a little premiere type thing. Tom Cruise actually flew us out himself in a plane. We'll pop up a picture right here. Totally real picture of us with Tom Cruise from the premiere. Just wait. So we're honored to see it, so we just figured we'd drop our this is our full review of it. There will be spoilers.
Yeah. And no joke, we saw it in one of the biggest screens in the US. So
we did. Opening night of that screen, actually the second ever screening or movie shown in the theater, so that was pretty cool to see. I think it's like 100 feet, I don't know. Massive screen, which is what Tom Cruise meant for this to be seen on.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, we'll get into it. Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Just kind of overall thoughts on this. I'll let you go ahead and give a little bit of what you thought on some stuff.
I think we got to state some things. One, both Blake and I love this series. I haven't seen the first two, but otherwise I've seen all the rest. Love them. Absolutely adore this franchise. And as we said before, we were both very excited for this movie. And also even seeing it in a very big screen to even give it an extra chance to, just excel, basically. And I gotta say, I think it's insane how highly rated, at least reviewed, this movie is, because I came out of it feeling underwhelmed. It did not meet my expectations. I know they were high, but I didn't think it was crazy high. You got to kind of know with these movies, you kind of know what you're going to get somewhat, right? The good guy is going to win in a way almost every time. And just, I don't know, even seeing it in the big screen, just coming out of it, I felt like I didn't have to see this movie in a movie theater, which is insane to me for it being a Mission Impossible movie. There's not really a single scene that I felt like the movie theater screen, it being massive, actually enhanced the movie experience. And you cannot say that for almost every single other Mission Impossible. Besides probably the first two. I know, especially since you didn't care too much for the second one. But
no one does. That one's super cheesy.
But still, though, you get what I'm putting down here of saying that it was kind of just wildly unoriginal for a Mission Impossible movie. It felt like it was trying to be something else. It almost felt more like I was watching a James Bond film starring Tom Cruise than a Mission Impossible movie. I don't know. That's just the vibes I was getting in. It just, the villains were not strong enough for me to enjoy it like I would a James Bond film. James Bond survives its franchise by the fact that normally the villains are great. And Mission Impossible, it's not really like that. It's more about the crew, their charisma, their chemistry and everything. And then also each one having just a crazy ass stunt and it being beautifully shot that looks awesome on the big screen. And the big shot on this one was just like, that's nice. And I get that it's suffering from success there, because in any other movie franchise or any other movie, you think, oh, that was a really cool shot. But because it's Mission Impossible, it's like, you've done better, Yeah. So that's some quick thoughts. We can expand more. I don't want to keep talking, so I'll let you give your quick thoughts here.
I personally, I've really enjoyed this movie. I can see some of your points. I definitely think are valid. I think this one does have, it does lack a little bit like that huge spectacle. But when I think about it, honestly, Fallout, the most recent one, that one didn't really have a huge spectacle in it either. To me, that's why I'm not too upset that it didn't have like as big of a moment. Villain wise, I really thought I liked what they did with this one. I definitely understand what you mean by it does feel like a James Bond, and I do wish it had a little bit more of like that actual reset. Here's the specific mission. It's hard to do. How do we get in and do it? This one didn't have that exact thing happen, which I would have appreciated from a Mission Impossible. Like you said, this one had a little bit more. I can see what you mean. It definitely had a little bit more James Bond rather than like a specific like, okay, here's a specific mission. This thing is hidden in here. It's going to be tough to get into. We have to get in. But I understand why they had to evolve and they had to change things up. Because with this being the 7th installment of a franchise, like I get them switching to do an AI like kind of villain because like that's realistically where we're headed. And like they can't do the same thing. So like I respected it because like it would have been better. They've already done like the nuclear thing. They've done the plutonium thing a couple times actually. So like if they just did the same thing of like, oh, somebody has a bomb, it would have been like, okay, that's like the 4th one in a row. We're focused on somebody with a bomb. Like, so I appreciated them trying to go for something new. But I do feel it was a little underwhelming in Mission Impossible standards, like you said, which is, credit to them from how good the franchise has been, that our expectations are so high. But I do think this one did feel a little bit flatter in that aspect. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought, I think this was a movie theater movement. The whole car scene with Hayley Atwell's character, who was a great addition. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But that whole car chase scene, I think on the big screen with how loud it was, that made that scene just way more impactful. And every time they went to Palm, I don't know her last name, but Paris was her character name. Every time they went to her in her car that she was driving, it sounded like it shook the seats. Like it just sounded like, I thought that alone made it worth seeing in theaters just for the car chase scene. And even the train scene at the end, like when they were falling one by one, I thought that scene was really cool. And I'm not somebody who likes trains. Like anytime you get somebody fighting on top of a train, usually I'm like, okay, cool. I've seen this before. But with that whole thing of it like falling one by one, I really enjoyed that. And I thought the being in a movie theater helped that scene a lot. But yeah, I agree that I wish there would have been a little bit more of a set, like, okay, this thing is in an unguardable, or it's super heavily guarded. We can't get in it. How do we get in? That's the Mission Impossible. I wish they had more of that. That would have been a premise. But, and I'll say this, just because you mentioned James Bond and the villain thing, Solomon Lane is a better villain than any James Bond movie has had, flat out. He is way better villain. He's a dope character. He was arguably in number 5. That's why I have it ranked as the best one, because Solomon Lane is one of the best villains, I think, in general. Not to get too off ranty here, I recently watched Lord of the Rings, and Saruman, the big eye comes up. I've seen people talk about him as a villain. He's trash as a villain. You don't see him. He's an eye the whole time. Never once does he come to an actual thing. So anybody who have ever seen put him on a list, legitimately, take 2 pencils, put them on a desk. There goes the camera. God. And slam your eyes into it.
God.
Just like that.
Just like that. Intense. I mean, yeah, that's one criticism you can have of the Lord of the Rings, especially because the lore of him is insane. And it's kind of like, yeah, you can go on. Anyways, we probably should get back on topic.
Yeah, back on topic. I enjoyed this movie. Just that was my overall quick little thoughts. That I agree with you that it needed that set mission part, but I enjoyed them trying to bring new life into the franchise with the AI. And speaking of new life, we can get into some of the new characters that were brought into this one. As we already mentioned, Grace, Hayley Atwell's character.
Amazing.
I mentioned already Palm. I don't remember her last name, but she played Paris was her name. I don't know the actor's name, who's Gabriel. And that was kind of the main, I would say, like 3 big new names thrown into this. And I thought all 3 were phenomenal in their roles. Hayley Atwell's character definitely stood out to me. I really liked Grace a lot. And anytime Palm was on screen, she didn't have much dialogue at all, but she was a lot of fun every time she was on screen. And Gabriel was a cool villain when you saw him fight, and his kind of like mysteriousness of his character was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, I thought all 3 were really good additions.
Yeah, I thought Hayley Atwell's character was fantastic and definitely the best part of the film and way more involved than I was expecting to be. So it was kind of cool to see her back into a big film, and actually reprising a big role. So she was doing great. Also made that car scene. I am a guy that I absolutely hate car scenes for the most part because they're too long or there's way too many jump cuts. So it's just like, this is lame and stupid. It was well shot. It was fun. It was entertaining, and it was loud when it needed to be. That was a great car scene. And I think that car scene actually got me so excited that I was like, oh, wow. I mean, they spent a lot of time on this. I was expecting, that great next shot that's going to happen later in the film. And I didn't really get that. So I think that, once again, like I said, suffering from success, it felt like for me for this film. But yeah, all the new characters was great. Paris was great. Gabriel, yeah, he was solid. Thought he was all right. I think he'll do better in the second film, in my opinion. But yeah. Yeah, overall, the characters are solid. However, I think if we're going in the seventh film, and this is a part one of a part two, and possibly being like maybe them trying to end this rodeo, where the hell was the original crew? You know what I mean? Where's our two boys? They had like maybe, 10, 15 minutes of actual screen time. I mean, it felt like it was nothing at all. And also a big part of this that I liked about Mission Impossible is it knew when to have its proper comedic relief times. And I felt like it really struggled with the natural flow of the movie with that in this one. Yes, there was some funny moments, but a lot of times it just, I don't know, it felt weird. It kind of felt like, oh, we haven't had that moment like the past ones have. We got to put it in right now. That's kind of how it felt like for some scenes. I think that mainly happened just because when you finally had the OG crew in, then that's when you knew that was going to finally come, instead of how in the past films it was able to come more naturally because they're a lot more involved throughout the film. On this one, they really weren't. So that was a big miss because the crew is my favorite part of the movies, especially just their dialogue and talking. Like, I love that airport scene. That was awesome because it was all three of them. Their communication about the fact, oh, there's literally potentially just something that's just going to blow up, a nuke going off. Yeah, man, you just keep walking while he's looking with sunglasses. That's nice. That felt like a classic Mission Impossible moment there. It was fun. Loved it. But that was kind of like the last time you had that in the film.
Right.
Literally. And this was in the beginning, So that was tough for me. But I get it. They are trying to do something different. And, every time a part one happens, it kind of suffers from the fact that this is a setup film in the sense in a way later film of already a franchise established. So that always hurts in my eyes for stuff like that. I get you got to have to do it, and it's really hard to do it. But still, since you're doing it, I'm going to judge it for it.
Right. I mean, yeah, I agree. That the airport scene was definitely one of the highlights for me of their chemistry and everything going on. The bomb was, I think that was a really nice touch for that, to have Benji going off doing his own thing, trying to work on the bomb. I loved that airport scene, like everything going on with that. Yeah, I agree that we definitely needed more Benji and Luther, and hopefully in part two, that'll, they'll be a huger or have a way bigger role.
I hope so.
I agree. Yeah. I agree that their chemistry is a huge part of the franchise, why it's so successful and why it's so fun to watch. But I mean, Rebecca Ferguson also was in this one. She's been in some of the past. Elsa, she was really good. I kind of would have liked her to get a little bit more time before her time was up in the franchise. But I thought she was good for the most part of when she was in this movie. But I agree that I hope with part two that we see a little bit more Benji Luther focus, especially because they kind of left Grace like open ended. Like, I'm not quite sure if she's meant to like come along or have a part really.
Exactly.
Or, like, I feel like they could go either way with her, and as much as I liked her, if they end up not kind of bringing her along as much in part two, and it's more just the three of them, Benji, Luther, and Ethan, then I have no issues. And also, if they want to bring Grace along, again, I would have no issues as long as we make sure Luther and Benji have a a little bit bigger role.
Bigger role, definitely.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, overall, Vanessa Kirby came back. I don't remember her character name. She was good. She's always solid. I feel like anytime she's in these movies, and that whole scene I really liked where they all went to the club and it was just kind of like all of them together talking and then realizing the AI was there. I thought that scene was really nicely done, and just the intensity of everything going on with that. And the end, the train scene with the whole, because like you said, Mission Impossible, you know, there's certain things like the you know, Ethan Hunt and them are gonna win, and like there has to be good twists. You know, you have to have a good, like, oh, this person's working for the other side. And I was relatively happy with when we got to the train scene where you had Kittredge was there, and then also I don't know what exactly his name was. I think he was like the director of national security. I don't remember his name. He was also there, so I kind of like to see that like those guys are also on the train, like they're trying to get their hands on the key and everything. So I was relatively happy with that. I would have liked more of, you know, a bigger twist, just because I feel like for me that's Mission Impossible is just fun with those like huge twists of like, who is this, or like what's this person's like objective.
I agree. I think what you're trying to say is we wish there was more involvement with those characters to enhance the twist they were trying to play out. You know what I mean? Right. Like even with the twist of like, oh, I mean, even though it said it's going to predict that Paris was going to betray or whatnot, but it was like that would have made more of an impact if we saw a lot more involvement throughout the story with some of these characters. And it's hard to do that when this is a setup film for a part 2, you know? Right. But I definitely wish, I mean, the coolest part if you're doing an AI story is the overall world impact. And I don't know, I definitely felt like for that was slightly below average when it comes to telling. Like, the AI, we didn't see the influence of the AI actually really properly affecting the mission until like about past, like I would say halfway through the film of when it was actually impacting. Like, oh yeah, now the AI is interfering with the intercoms and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Even though it was showing it's going fast paced, the AI was kind of just there. It felt like definitely background. Also, I think my other gripe is you have this cool AI, and Gabriel was kind of getting teased in the beginning of him just being a pure ghost. I mean, he even has a background of being a ghost. You know, he's a character that's coming back. He didn't really feel like a ghost in the movie. He kept showing up. You kept seeing him. He was not a character that was really, you didn't get to see as much of what he was doing in the background of what a ghost would do. He just was always there. Ethan always saw him. Ethan always met him. And then, you know, you said the scene, you like them where they're all together. It's like, yeah, that is fun. But also for me, it felt like, okay, once again, Gabriel's just wide in the open and he's here. Yeah, once again, we see him. He's here. Yeah. And I thought he would be so much better if he truly was a ghost in this film where you have an AI to make him truly invisible, as they teased in the airport scene. So I thought we were going to get more of that. And I was disappointed that we didn't. And he was here and just basically like, lol, get wrecked nerd the entire film.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
I still think he was nice, but I thought he was going to be more, which he could be in the second one. You know, like I said, it's still a setup, could be way better in a second. And then that can make us like the first one better even, you know, it happens. But that's kind of how I felt when it came to Gabriel and that.
No, I agree. I definitely see what you mean. The way he was kind of introduced in the beginning, it did seem like he was going to be more of a mysterious ghost kind of character.
Especially with the glasses scene, you know, right. He just literally is digitally getting removed, and then you don't see that happen once again in the rest of the film.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I definitely see what you mean, that he could have been better if they continued that. But yeah, overall, though, I definitely think that for a setup film, I thought that this was pretty good. It gave you a relatively satisfying, or, you know, the ending of it was I was pretty satisfied with the ending. It left it like, okay, there is stuff to do, but stuff got done in this one. Something like Spider-Man, you know, that one, you didn't really know that was a set, or at least we didn't know going into it. It was a setup one. That one felt a little bit more abrupt of like, okay, that kind of just ended. This one, it felt like it was pretty set and clear. Like, okay, this one has ended. There's more room to go, but we got stuff accomplished here, which was nice. So,
yeah.
In terms of that, I am looking forward to part 2 for sure. The way that they set this up, and like you said, hopefully, Gabriel gets, you know, is a little bit better in this one, more ghostly, like, I don't know, but It'll be interesting to see too, like, you know, with them having to, if they have to go to the sub, or I mean, obviously at this point it's already pretty much done. I kind of hope that in this one that the thing in the sub has been taken by somebody else, and so now it's them like having to break into that to steal it back, because that would feel way more Mission Impossible rather than them just going in the ocean and having to, like, you know, because like then they're really just fighting like the elements.
Yeah,
I would definitely hope for Mission Impossible that somebody like Gabriel already gets it and has it in like a base or a, you know, whatever, and then it's like, okay, we need to break into this. It's going to be hard. That would be to me a very, like, if this is the end of the franchise, which I'd assume it's going to be, it would just be a very nice way to end it, like an actual full mission. This base is impenetrable. We're going to have to, you know, use our masks. We're going to have to do, you know what I mean? I hope that's more.
Which the mask gas scene was cool. It was cool. I liked it. Yeah,
I love those masks. I'm such a little. I'm every time they do those, I get happy. I love that. I love that franchise has that. And I hope that, you know, we get that fixed. Obviously, it broke in this one. I hope they get that fixed, and we get to see it again if that is the end of the franchise. Because I think that is, when you think of Mission Impossible, I feel like that mask making thing is like one of those things that just is like synonymous with the franchise, their own thing. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I hope in Dead Reckoning Part 2 that we have them have to break into that rather than just the sub, and that we get more masks seen.
Fair enough.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, that's my main take. I overall, I'm pretty happy with this movie. I think it was a good setup film. We got stuff accomplished. There's more to go. Definitely things that they can build on. I don't think it's crazy to say this is not, you know, the best Mission Impossible movie ever. I think that's pretty fair to say. Even though the reviews are high, which I get, people just being happy. Yeah, Tom Cruise gets people.
Oh, I think what the real thing is, because I'm gonna have to definitely defend my rating here a little bit, is
what does that mean?
The people that are seeing this movie haven't seen a movie in a while in a theater. Let's just be honest. So everything feels better because watching movies in theaters are awesome. Okay, simple as that. So if you haven't seen one in a while, everything feels a little better. And so I think that's why, because I think it's crazy that it is rated as high as it is with Peace and Love. You know, that it is a wild, like, as in terms of it, they're rating it almost like it's one of the best movies ever, practically. And I'm like, come on,
right?
Come on, yeah. So with that being said, my rating out of 10 is, you know, it's what I came out feeling with, and I still even talking about it. I can say confidently, this is what I feel. I give it a 6.2 out of 10. It is just a slightly above average film. It definitely is the worst one I've seen out of all the Mission Impossibles.
I mean, that is just...
So 6.2, you know, hey, I came out, I was like, yeah, that was nice. And that's about it. So I didn't dislike it, but nothing where I could really come out of this and be like, that was outstanding, you know?
That is blasphemy. I would just like to go on record to say he is not a true Mission Impossible fan, just for everybody who knows. He is not, because if he was, it gets a 6.2 just for having the name Mission Impossible on it. That is just for me, I put it at an 8.6. I really enjoyed this movie. It's one of the first movies in a long time I was engaged the longest out of this movie than anything else. Usually other movies I check out at points. Like, I'll be sitting there and I'll be looking around, looking at other people. I'm like, this is just whatever. I did not really check out of this one too often at all. So a low 6 is just absolute blasphemy. This is way better than that. The car chase scene alone was good. The pacing of this movie was great. For as long as it did not feel long at all. It did not drag on. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse dragged on forever, and it was shorter. That's just crazy. Yeah, no. Like I said, this is. I was like, his rating better not start with a 7. Was what's in my head.
Nah,
and you went with a 6.
6.2. It's above average.
It's
slightly above average.
Definitely better than average.
Listen, it didn't have a lot of originality in it. It was, you know, you had a car chase, you had a car scene, you had a train scene, and it's an AI. You know what I mean? All stuff that's been heavily saturated. And then the saving point was that the car scene was nice and well shot, and as well as had some nice funny moments in it. But like the train scene, it wasn't until like at the end of it that I finally actually like a bit of it. Otherwise, it felt so long, and I was like, I just do not care what's going on right now until it finally gets to when you got, you know, the classic Tom Cruise doing that some crazy parkour shit, you know?
Right.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was
but otherwise,
something
before,
different. It was good.
It's just like, oh, this was dragging on.
The AI was really good.
I disagree. It was just such
AI was better in this than any other movie. No, it was better than
that is not true. That is so. It's such a generic. What other AIs have better? It's generic. That was it was oversaturated storyline, which technically, I mean, this is a delayed movie, hella delayed, but still,
that's just crazy. That's blasphemy. That's just wrong. Anyways, let us know in the comments down below when you see Mission. Obviously, like we said, we got to go to the premiere. Special shout out to them for, you know, bringing us out, flying us out there. Tom Cruise himself in a plane. So, you know, comment down below what your thoughts are on Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1. If you liked it, why it's definitely better than a low 6.
6.2. Yeah, come on.
Like the video. That's insane.
Like it and support us, because we're going to die during that nuke scene of how close we're sitting for Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.